Good morning, everyone. So I'm Olivier Tonneau, partner and founder at Quantum Nation. So we are a fund dedicated to investment in the quantum industry, and also we are doing a bit of deep physics. We've been around for 5 years, so I think it's time to get a few lessons from that, and also post a few ideas for how it could evolve in the next years. First, a broad view of the financing ecosystem in quantum. So it's been a very dynamic sector. As you see, it's only been growing. There has been a bit of a difficulty. So on the top hand right, you can see private investment. So essentially VC deals in quantum. There has been a bit of a slowdown. Now you have to be careful with these figures because there are a lot of cutoff effects. Some very large deals, 500 millions or more, have happened either in December each year or in January the other year. So it changes. It would change quite a bit the story depending on when you announce it. But if you look at the tendency and the trend, it's growing steadily. It has been for a year, and we believe it's going to continue. If you compare investment in quantum, which is roughly 2 billion per year private investment, to investment in AI, I think we are far from there, and there is still a very large potential for increase. If you look at the market, that's a second chart on the right. It is estimated that quantum computing is roughly 800 to 1 billion market, mainly proof of concept and also early sales of machines. So it's about half-half, and also growing steadily, 20-25% per year. Now, also interesting, the last one is the fact that there is now a quantum plan or quantum strategy in almost all developed countries in the world. The funding is tens of billions over several years, and it has been increasing steadily as well. So a very dynamic financing landscape. Now, a question about timing. The question we ask ourselves as an investor is, when is the right time? So it is difficult to say when the market is going to peak. For example, we expected that quantum communications would go big 3 to 4 years ago. It is starting to peak now, so it has been a bit of a lag time. On the other hand, computing maybe has been faster than we estimated. So one of the difficult subject in investing in quantum is really when you look at a nice technology, even if you are right and it's the right technology, the question is, if you are too early, then you are not right. So timing is of the essence. This is us. So we are now a team of 8 people investing, plus a few interns going. So we've been 3 people for most of our 5 years, and the team has grown in the last year. Our specificity is that we have 3 quantum physicists in the team, which is very important because otherwise it's very difficult to assess the companies and the roadmap of the companies we are investing in. So we are currently managing 165 million. We have invested in roughly 30 companies. Investing in all segments of quantum technology, so communications, computing, sensing. We also invest in what we call deep physics, so not strictly using entanglement and superposition, but coming from the same lab, and also very disruptive technologies. We are not shy of investing in hardware, and actually Fund 1 was pretty much about investing in hardware. Here are the companies in which we have invested. And Fund 2, we believe, is going, well, you can find this on our website if you no need to take all the pictures. It's important to build the machines. And I think Fund 1 and the last 5 years have been about building all the hardware. And we believe that now that the machines are there, they are starting to work, they are starting to be efficient. We are coming into the era where it will be more driven towards application. So those are the companies, as you see. We are very narrow focused, but we are investing worldwide. The interest with being a fund is that you don't have to take just one bet on one technology, and as you can see, we are betting on several platforms, and we believe that they can complement themselves. We are not yet at the stage where we believe there is a winner take it all, but as maybe Jean-Philippe mentioned, there are some things that will be good for ions, some other problems that will be good to tackle with atoms or photons. So which is why we believe it has an interest to invest in several technologies. You can also bet on technologies that are a bit short term and some other that are longer term but have really a great potential to scale, such as silicon spin qubit. I see Maud at the back of the room here. A few figures. So we have deployed so far, it was end of last year, 70 billion in equity. The interesting thing is that, so we, in each round, we are not the only investors, so we managed to attract other investors, and this has led to nearly 3 times or 4 times the amount that we invest that is brought by other investors. So we are not shy of having people investing, and we welcome people investing alongside us because we cannot do the rounds all by ourselves, especially when they become large at Series A or Series B stage. Another interesting thing is the public support. As you saw the figures for public investment in those technologies, this results in every time you put €1 of private money, you also get €1 of public money. So that's been quite efficient, and that has proved to bring quite a leverage, even if we are still a small fund. This has had an impact on the company, which have been able to raise sizable round. Another important topic is number of employees. So if you are a quantum startup, the journey typically is 2 or 3 people spinning off technology out of the lab. And for the first 2 years, you just take the experiment and you transform it into a prototype, and it takes 10 people, out of which 7 or 8 PhDs. And then the company starts to have POCs, starts to have clients, prototypes, and then it develops nicely and develops with HR, corporate functions, finance, and so on. And it becomes really a normal company. And we have seen acceleration in as well as the maturity of the company evolves in our portfolio. Still a topic to tackle is the lack of women in the industry, as shown here. It's something that we are monitoring, but it's not easy because not so many women in science and in physics to start with. Interesting topic for us. So people say once you start a startup, then you are no longer focusing on science. Well, it's really something that I believe is not possible when you speak about quantum. So we encourage and we monitor the company in which we invest for them to publish papers, to go after patents. And so as you can see, it's been increasing steadily on all the companies. So either publications, either patents, it's really important. And so the technologies that you spin off out of the lab, usually there is 1 or 2 very important patents that belongs to the university where the company originates from. But really soon, the company has its own IP portfolio, and that's very important. So research has to continue in the startup. We are not in a field that's mature yet, so you need to keep on working on the machine. So one thing that's been very important, so this is an example, historical example from the US, but it's the role of public procurement and the role of that DARPA has played, for example, in deep tech in the US. And it's starting to be the same. So in the US, CHIPS Act has a quantum play in it. In Europe, we are also evolving towards a CHIPS Act. There has been the Euro HPC. So purchasing machines from public procurement is important. And it's all the more important that, well, we prefer our companies to develop a machine rather to get just a grant, because when you develop a machine, you have clients, you need to define your functionalities, you have deadlines, you need to have performance, you have feedback from a client that will test this. So it's important, and it's not always easy for large private corporates to jump in and purchase a machine. Some of them are in the process of doing it. But so the first orders coming from public are a great help and a great leverage for the industry. So I was speaking about Euro HPC, which has been a success. So here we are speaking about Pascal, but I think there are about 10 platforms that are now installed or will be installed into HPC centers all over Europe, creating a community of users and also making sales for the startup who have been selected for this program. People often tell us when we meet our own investors, investing in quantum is like investing in biotech. You have nothing, and then in 10 years you have a machine that's doing everything. And it's not exactly that way that it's happening. And what we are seeing is that there is a market, even though the technology is not mature yet. A lot of companies, a lot of clients are preparing for this. So those figures date back to 2022. So more than 100 proof of concept projects at large corporates that were alive at that time. I think it must be much more now. But it shows that even though we have not yet reached a practical advantage for quantum computation in the industry, still the large corporates are preparing for it. They are assembling team, they are testing product, doing proof of concept. And this results in having already a market. Even though we can do better, the machines can do better, we are already selling machines, and we are already trying to solve problems in the industry with those machines. One thing that we believe, and this is the section where this is more the idea of how we see the industry evolving. It's hard to make a quantum startup. It's hard because the technology is hard, it can take time, so it's difficult to do that on your own. And we often say, unlike in digital, you cannot create a quantum startup in your garage with your laptop. So it requires a whole ecosystem. So when we talk about ecosystem, we mean academia, because of course those companies are all, 95% of the companies we've invested in are coming from the best universities in the world and result from 10 or 15 years of research. And it's difficult to start a company from scratch if you don't have that, if you don't have a lab to rely on. You need to have incentive from the government because it's a long-term play, it's a long-term vision. You need to have clients who starts to get interested in the technology. So people like, I don't know, Airbus, BASF, the large corporates of the world. You need to have some money, fuel, of course, investors. You need to have some people, I don't know, the companies working in IT who will bring those technologies to their clients. And of course, you need to have some end users. And if you don't have all those ingredients, it's going to be very difficult because every time one piece is going to miss. So we believe very much in ecosystem, and that's something we are working actively on. So one announcement that we've made in November is we are working on the concept of a quantum studio. So the idea is to help to have a structure, professional structure with a team that will help transition project from university and from the lab into true companies. We often see researchers with good ideas, concept, but it still takes them 18 years, 24 months to get from the concept to the company. So we cannot, while we cannot invest at the concept phase, they need someone to work with to develop and mature their project. And we have done that a few times for a few companies, but now we believe that it's better to have teams that are dedicated to that. So the first one was announced out of the University of Sherbrooke last November. We are working on a similar concept in France. We will be announcing next month Quantum Studio in Italy as well, working in with one in either in Singapore or Tokyo, and working also on one in the US. So the idea is those organization will help researchers, incubate those researchers, and make them into a company that can be invested in 2 years later. We hope they can get up to speed 5 companies per year, which would help because it's really not easy to create a quantum startup. So I'm glad talking after Jean-Philippe, who talked about the importance of co-design. And it's something that we are pushing as well, in our portfolio companies, but also with our own investors. Some of them are corporates, and we put them in touch with our portfolio companies. we believe it's the way forward. It's difficult to make things on your own now if you have some leverage infrastructure. So it's something that we will have also in this studio, some equipment, so for companies to share. I mean, not all companies have the use for deal fridge 100%, but if they can use it 20% and share it with someone else, then it's more efficient. So co-design, having several companies sharing some equipment, working on real challenge, life challenge, corporate challenge is something that we try to encourage, and we believe it's the way forward. One good example of that so was Q2B Pharmaceutical partnering with Pascal in order to simulate the impact of water in molecules. And so, although Jean-Philippe mentioned there are some limitations, you are already able to do some good approximations. And so using both startups from Quantum or Quantum-inspired approach, have them work together is really something that helps accelerate discovery and get to results. Another, I was telling you about how now we believe that we are switching towards applications more than building just the platforms. There are some, so the applications that we see, this is one of the examples, will be climate, security. We believe there are going to be some application in health tech as well. So this is the example of the industry trying to tackle one of the biggest challenges that we have, which is climate. This workshop was held last year at GE in the US. We are organizing a symposium in November, which will be announced soon, working also on quantum for climate. And we believe getting the industry together and having to tackle a great challenge of our times is also something that will be important and that will help the quantum community get traction, get financing, and also get visibility, broad visibility. So this one was from last year, and we are now working on a new version, so Quantum for Climate Symposium, to be held in November in Paris. So a few words of conclusion. We are now, we believe, past the pioneering stage. We have a large ecosystem. We have a large number of companies. People are starting to be aware of what's happening. The challenge now is to transition to scale up. So it's not been so difficult for startup to get 3 million, 10 million, 15 million financing. Now the real question when you are building a quantum computer is, are you going to be able to attract 300 million, 500 million? So it's been the case for a few companies in the US. Now the question is, will it be the case in Europe and when? So that's the real challenge in the next 2 years. We need to make sure that it's easier to transition from the lab to the startups, and so everything we discussed about studios, building connections, and also building connections between several disciplines, because we often see researchers that are very good at one topic, but have no idea what's happening in the other topic, and sometimes just bridging the gap makes some very, very good advances. More interdisciplinarity, POCs. So some people criticize POCs and say that it's losing time. We believe at the stage of maturity where the industry is, it's still the key, because you have to prove that those machines and those technologies will be useful for something, and POCs is the best way to attract some future customers. And as a conclusion, so the last 5 years, we believe have been about building this ecosystem, building the machine, getting them to work, trying to test them. Now we are entering into an era where it will be more applications driven, and hopefully we will engage more people in this next 5 years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Olivier. We have time for a question or two.
Sure.
First, do you see the rate of new startups forming? Is that accelerating or decelerating?
So it has been very strong. It's pretty much, we have seen very linked to the public incentives. For example, when we looked at Germany in 2019, there was a handful of startups, not more than 5. There has been a strong effort from DLR. 3 years after, there is 40 companies, and still the wave is still crazy. So I think there is a very strong incentive from governments. National plans are very important, and they really have an impact. Now, the reason why we are working on this studio concept is because we think it's not going fast enough. And we think there are some barriers when a researcher or PhD wants to create his company. He needs to be coached, he needs to have a whole organization around, and that's why we are working on those quantum studios, because we believe that there could be more companies created.
Okay, one last question. You so mainly have focused on investing in hardware. Your last bullet point was turning more towards applications. Any advice for being related to QCware, a software company, what should we be doing or could we be doing different to better engage with investors and hardware providers, etc.?
So it's been difficult for us to invest in software because, well, in the first place, if you don't have the machines to run your software on and to prove that it's useful, then it's not easy, which is why have to build the machines first. Now, there has been some very nice concept, and Qubit Pharmaceutical is a good example of that, where you can run on classical and then transition later to quantum, which is interesting. You can also use emulators, which is also a way to do it. But I think now the machines are there. Well, when we are saying the machines are there, it's not exactly true, because you have to be aware that there is a scarcity of machines. I think the number of quantum computers that are that can be used by software companies worldwide is maybe 30 or 40 computers, so it's still a very small number. It will grow, hopefully. But no, I think the software company, they have to show that they can be useful to corporates. If they show that they can tackle some useful cases, then they will get interest and traction from corporate, and then in turn they will get some runtime on the machines.